they cut. I saw a little bit of a slowdown like September, October, when rates were kind of like keep on climbing up to like 7 and 8, but they weren't used to seeing that because we were looking at interest rates in the 2s and the 4s. But again, it's just having that conversation and letting them, I kind of pull up a timeline for them. Look, this is what the real estate market does. And the average is 7.92. So at 5.65, you're doing phenomenal.
Welcome to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast, where nothing is off limits. If you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and you want to learn some of the insider secrets and uncensored truths from the true professionals in and around real estate, you've come to the right place. Now, let's buckle up for the uncensored truth about real estate and join your host, Brian Cardenas.
All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. If you're catching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell so you hear when we have new episodes. And if you're on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe, download the episode, and share it with your friends so we can spread the word about all this great information that we get shared with us with our special guests. And today we've got a special guest coming to us from the great state of Texas, Veronica Wier. She's with the Wier team, the team leader, I'm guessing, of the Wier team at eXp Realty. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. And maybe we can start out just a little bit about your history, your background, kind of how did you end up where you are today?
Absolutely. So good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you're at. My name is Veronica Wier, and I am the team owner of the Wier team at eXp Realty here in the Houston, Texas area. I've been in the real estate industry for just over 5 years. I have a background in customer service. I've probably done everything you could think of with the Brinker International Chili's brand, and also 6 years of banking in the banking industry with some regional banks here in the area, Amegy Bank, BB&T, which is now Truist. And so that's kind of my background as far as what I did before real estate. So
you're kind of dangerous out there. You have a little bit of knowledge of finance that a lot of realtors don't have, don't you?
Yes, that is my secret weapon. One of them. That's one of my secret weapons.
So how does that come into play? I mean, having a little bit of the background, and I think you've done a little bit of lending as well with that. How does that help you out in helping your clients more so than what they might experience with another agent?
I think it really boils down to me being able to provide like a full needs consultation, being able to talk about more than just the home that they're dreaming of or desiring or what their needs are in a home, but being able to pre-screen them for my lender partners and be able to give them a full educational knowledge of what it means to buy a home. And taking kind of that full broad spectrum overview of where their current financial situation is and kind of giving them an idea of what they're looking at as far as a timeline. Obviously, I'm not licensed as a mortgage loan professional, but with that being, part of my background, I'm able to have better, deeper conversations with them.
Yeah, and sometimes that's kind of the first thing that you need to touch on with people is, what are their goals financially? And then getting a basic idea of whether or not that's attainable, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the things I've created kind of this buyer packet consult, if you will. So when a client sits down with me, that's literally the first thing on there. And so we get to talk about what is a lender and what other, what financing options do they have if they are choosing to use a home loan to purchase their home.
So when somebody comes to you with a lender, maybe that they're thinking that they want to use, what does that discussion sound like for you? I mean, do you just kind of let it go? Do you give them options to consider? Do you strongly encourage them to talk to people that you've trusted? How does that conversation go?
Well, I basically give them an overview of, okay, what is a mortgage lender? What does it look like at the banking level, right? If a lot of times they'll come to me, well, I have a credit union. And so, we talk about what their financing power is. And then I talk to them more about, a private mortgage loan broker and kind of the difference between the three of those and what it looks like as far as an experience and a process. A lot of times, especially my veteran home buyers, whenever they get ready to, if they're still in the service or they've already ETS'd out of whatever military branch they're in, the Veterans Affairs, they like to give them, Navy Federal, Credit Union. They like to give them VA, Veterans United, and then there's one other big one that we call the Big Three. But here in Texas, a lot of those national brands, corporations, they do not have the same programs that some of my private mortgage loan brokers have here in Texas. So it's super important that I give them kind of like the whole spreadsheet of, this is what you're getting here and here and here, so that they can make a better decision about who they want to use as their financing officer.
Yeah, and as a mortgage professional, I'm going to chime in here a little bit since we went this direction. I would tell you, as a consumer, active duty, veteran, what have you, if you're looking for a VA loan, make sure that you put into your mix of consideration a mortgage broker. Kind of like what you talked about, just
Absolutely.
Because there's companies that have, a branch of the military or VA in their name does not necessarily mean you're going to get the best deal from those folks, or that they are the most knowledgeable and creative in solving problems. I know one of the guys that we work with at our company, he does a lot of VA loans in your state, actually. And, he had just posted in our internal group how he got turned down by one of those companies, or a client got turned down by one of those companies maybe 10 days before they were supposed to close.
Oh my goodness.
And the realtor knew of him, sent them over to him, and he was able to take the fact that the appraisal had come in high, and they ended up renegotiating the price up, getting a larger credit back from the seller, and using the seller to pay off some of the debts. It's a really creative solution that you can do that's unique to a VA loan that you can't do with other loans. And he was able to get them in their house on time, like, believe it or not, that fast, despite somebody else turning them down. So if you're out
That's
there,
amazing.
as a military veteran or active duty, make sure that you're talking to a really knowledgeable mortgage broker, because they can make all the difference in the world for you.
And I'm glad you brought that up. The house that I currently live in, we bought the house 3 years ago, and we were in a situation where there was some educational debt that I had from some loans that I took out when I was at the University of Texas. And it had already gone into a deferment status. And I didn't know, because I had this company call me and say, hey, let us consolidate your loans. And so I thought that had taken care of that period of time. And so what they needed was for me to pay the VA loan, and the lender said I needed to pay 9 consecutive payments, even though at the time I could have paid it all off. But it was more of that payment history. So fast forward, when we were able to purchase the home, we ended up getting a seller credit that the mortgage lender was able to use, and we actually paid off a car as well. So they got really creative with our loan package as well. So I completely agree. It's so important to not only find a knowledgeable realtor, but to be able to partner with a knowledgeable mortgage broker, to be able to understand that, even though there are some out of the box kind of scenarios that we get, there's always usually a way to work around it.
Right. So with your veteran clients specifically, what do you see as probably the most common misconception that they have about home buying?
I usually get 3 things. One is credit. They feel like they have to have like a 700 plus credit score. They feel like they have to put 20% down. And then for some reason, people have said often that they feel like they wouldn't be able to use their veteran loan, their VA loan, to purchase a home because sellers don't like them. So, and I think there's a lot of misconception too, even still with some agents, especially newer to the market, that a VA loan offer is not as good as a conventional loan or an FHA loan, which, and to me, what I've seen in most cases is it's better. It's better than all of those.
Right.
So those are the top 3 things that I get whenever I sit down with a military service member and we're talking about, their option with a VA loan. Those are the 3 things that are kind of pain points for them, or misconceptions.
I'm surprised that you're hearing military members thinking that they've got to put 20% down. I would have thought that was a more common knowledge thing, that they know they've got a VA loan with 0 down, but that's not really the case, huh?
No, I mean, not all of them. Some of them know, like, oh, it's 0%, but some of them come to me and they still think that it's 20%. So I'm like, no,
Yeah,
no, no, like, this is why you need to use it.
yeah, and to your first point, in terms of credit, VA has the most flexibility when it comes to credit.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
mean, the whole not the mantra, but the charge, the orders that VA underwriters have is to try to find a way to make a loan to our veterans. Like,
Yep.
a lot of other times, we feel like sometimes, and clients probably feel like sometimes, the underwriter is the big bad person who's trying to find a way to crush your dreams. Like, we call them dream crushers sometimes, jokingly. Most of them are actually trying to find a way to do things, but their hands are kind of tied behind their back sometimes with a lot of other types of loans. With VA, they're specifically charged with try to find a way to justify making this loan. They really want to make loans. And so you can have a 550 credit score and still get a VA loan. Like, there might be a story to why you're there, and we're going to need to know that story. We're going to need to,
Right.
put it together, but definitely, don't not check into it. I guess that's the big thing. Like, don't hesitate from looking into it, because you might find that you can go buy a house and you can start building wealth by owning that real estate a lot sooner than you might think. Because right now, your other point was a lot of sellers thinking, or other agents think, that a VA loan offer isn't as strong. I don't know about your market. Are you guys seeing a lot more willingness to accept VA offers now?
Oh, absolutely. I have a client right now. We are about 6 or 7 days before closing, and not only was I able to get him over $7,000 in seller contribution, but he's got some other things too with that loan package. And I mean, it's amazing that he was even, I mean, we were up against a lot of other offers. It was a multi-offer situation, and we offered at asking with the seller contribution, and he's coming to the table with little or nothing, and only a little because he wants to pay off some things. But that's it was his scenario. So
Well, that's interesting that you guys are at the point of still having to do offers to compete against other offers. I think that's not the case in a lot of markets right now.
yeah.
With listing agents, let's put it that way. What is the main reason that you think that they feel like a VA offer isn't as strong? Because that is a very common theme all over the place.
Yes. Well, the biggest thing that I've heard is that the VA appraisal report takes too long to come in. And they're afraid that, they'll have to use a Tidewater or something like that because the appraisal will come in low. I mean, and that happens sometimes, but I mean, probably in all of my 5 years, maybe 3 times. And it wasn't just with a VA loan, it was with the FHA loan as well. So, I mean,
yeah, I think that's a big misconception for a lot of agents, is thinking that the appraisals are going to come in low. I hear that a lot. Oh, VA appraisals always come in low. And, it's like, somebody has a listing, and out of, 20 listings that they may have in the year, or 10 listings they have 1 or 2 VA deals, and it just happened to be one that came in low. So they think they always come in low, and they don't value them any differently.
It's that overgeneralization, and
yeah,
it is a true misconception for sure.
They definitely they use the same methodology to come up with the home value. And what a lot of agents don't understand is that you actually have more of an ability to contest that valuation with the VA loan than you do with any other loan, because that Tidewater notification you mentioned, for people out there that don't know what that is, that's basically where, if the appraiser has kind of made a determination that they're going to probably bring the value in lower than what the contract price is, they give a notification to the buyer and the agent so that they can solicit more input, more comparable sales from the agents to see if they can justify bringing it in at the sales price. No other loan does that. Every single other loan, the appraiser just comes back with the report, and if it's low, then we have to go fight with the appraiser and try to convince them that they did a bad job and that they must change their mind because, good old loan mortgage broker and realtor know how to value properties better than the appraiser does.
And that
You would
doesn't make
imagine.
them very happy.
They don't like that. They don't
No.
usually agree with us very often. But with the VA, we have that upfront process with the Tidewater notification. If they still come in low, you can still do a reconsideration of value. And if they don't change anything, you can actually take it directly to the VA to contest that
Absolutely.
valuation. And
Yeah.
you have no other resources with any other loan to do that. I think, realtors are listening to this and have that concern about a VA appraisal. The time that it takes to get it back, yeah, they do take a little bit longer. They don't participate in rushes and stuff like that. That's legit. Usually doesn't impact a transaction, very often. But the fears about appraisals coming in low, that I think is unfounded. I think it's just like an overgeneralization, like you said.
Yeah.
And then the one other thing that we hear of, and I don't know if you get this a lot, is that they think that because the buyer isn't putting anything down, that they're not as strong of a buyer. Do you get that?
That's good. Yeah. Yep. I'm glad you brought that up. That is something else that I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something that, the challenge with it is like we as the lender can't give out a whole bunch of information on the buyer, but the buyers can give whatever information with their offer that they want to.
Absolutely.
And so like when you have cash buyers, like you typically having to provide proof of funds, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so a VA buyer could do that just because a veteran doesn't have to put any money down. And financially, a lot of times it doesn't make any sense to put anything more out of pocket than you have to. But that doesn't mean that they don't have it or that they don't have good credit. I mean, there's a way to structure your offer so that you can show the listing agent that this is actually a really strong buyer, right?
Right. And I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of times, even with our with other loan products, but if we're up against a multiple offer situation or it's a really hot deal and it hasn't been on the market long and we want to win the offer, one thing that we do is I will encourage my buyer to write a personal letter to the seller. And, you have to be really careful with what you put in there. But one of the things that, like for a VA buyer, for instance, just putting in there that buyer has access to other discretionary funds if needed, and then, being able to say, we can show that upon request as another proof of funds. So that's also another thing that, I kind of use as a resource as well. So, especially in those situations. So
that really brings up the importance of having a really good real estate agent representing you as a buyer, making sure that you can properly negotiate for them because, seller concessions are on the table, but also things like that you just mentioned. When somebody is thinking about buying a house though, like how are they supposed to figure out who's going to be a good agent for them? Because it's not the easiest process in the world to figure it out, right?
It's not. And I get this question, for people that I don't know. A lot of my business now is run, with referrals, friends, family, people I know, like, and trust, which is great. I've been really blessed there. But I still prospect, I still want to meet new people. And so, I don't get asked this often, but sometimes they're like, why should I choose you versus somebody else? And for me, I just tell them and I look them in the eye and say, it's this conversation right here. I'm not an order taker. I'm here to be able to serve you based on what your goals are and take you through that process and provide you with an experience that I don't have to ask you for a referral because I'm going to take so good care of you that you want to tell somebody else about me. And I want you to hold me to that. And so it's just, I'm just real. I am small, but I am mighty. I'm a 4'7.5" person. But I truly care about my clients. And so they know that I will go up to battle for them, regardless of if they're a veteran buyer or not. But they know that I'm going to take care of them and I'm going to shoot straight. I'm going to be able to give them the truth about their situation and what options they have available and what opportunities they have. Because for me, it's not about the transaction. It truly is not about the transaction. So,
yeah, you might be small, but you got a big heart. I can say that.
Thank you.
And that's important because, when you're trying to choose a real estate agent or lender for that matter, there's not a ton of resources for people to go out and look up. And it's not always about the numbers. It really is about the relationship. Because if you know that you've got somebody that cares about your best interests at heart, that they're going to make sure that they're always doing things to try to put you in the best position possible. But in addition to that, like you have to have the skill set necessary to be able to negotiate for things that you want to, because there's a lot of times where, people will go to a family member or something like that that's got a license, because everybody knows, 10 realtors, and think that, oh, just because they got a license that they can do the job. But that's not necessarily true.
And I think also too, what I've seen is people will go online and Google like best realtor in League City. That's actually the market that I'm in. So I'm not necessarily on that first page of Google because I don't pay for that. I don't pay for ads. I don't pay for that SEO spot on Google. So back to your point, it's not always the person that you see, with, the most number of sales, especially because if you own a team, I mean, you could have several realtors that are producing, but because you're the team leader, it all goes under your name. It makes you look like you're the top producer, that's fine because you provide a lot of resources and things like that as a team leader. But what my point is, when people Google, best League City or best Arizona realtor or mortgage lender, it's not always the first person on the Google page. You need to really look at, stalk me on Facebook, go to my business page, see what I'm doing with my clients, and so that's why I always encourage, my clients, like, I'm going to send you who I feel is the best of the best, but here are some others, check them out, because you may get along better with one or the other, but these are the people that I know will take good care of you.
Yeah. And it's good to get a referral and a reference from somebody that does this, all the time. They're a professional at it, because the only reason that you're giving out a referral to somebody is that you trust that they're going to come through and do the job and take care of the clients. There's nothing else to it. What are you hearing right now from let's start with sellers. What are you hearing from sellers right now about their feelings about this current market? Like, are they concerned about selling? Are they anxious to get sold? Like, what are you experiencing right now with sellers?
I'm not experiencing the panic that we first felt like 3 months into 2020. There is still a little bit of hesitation with sellers wanting to put their home on the market. But I think as interest rates have kind of leveled out a little bit, they're not kind of like going here and here and here and here, but they're kind of seeing a consistency with it. I am getting more listings. I'm getting a lot more listings than what I got 6 months ago. So, which is good for buyers because the inventory is there.
Is your inventory like anywhere near normal? Like, where are you guys at right now?
It's better. It's better than what it was in 2021. I'll tell you that around this time. So, yeah. And the only reason why you'd be getting multiple offers or any kind of bidding war would be because it's in a hot place like League City. We have one of the best school districts. So League City, Friendswood, and then where you get closer to oil and gas industrial area, that's kind of a hot market. So I had a listing that I put on the market last Wednesday. It went live at noon. I had 2 showings by the end of that day. And then by Thursday evening, I had an offer on it. And we had 2 others throughout the weekend. So it's still hot. I mean, and if you are working it the right way, you're treating this as a business and you're really looking to serve your clients, you're going to find deals.
You want to buy a house, but high interest rates have got you down? Take the rate challenge and send us a verifiable loan estimate from another lender, and we'll beat it and pay for your appraisal up to $600. Here at Give Mortgage, being powered by U Mortgage allows us to provide you with unmatched speed and efficiency and the best rates and fees in the market, all while delivering you the concierge level service you deserve. We want you to have an experience getting a mortgage that you'll never forget, and not because you got put through a meat grinder to get it. At Give Mortgage, we give great advice, we give the best rates, and we give back to charity. Visit us at www.give-mortgage.com or call us at 480-331-4684 to schedule a free consultation to see how we can help.
if somebody as a seller tells you, well, I'm concerned about where home values are, I'm concerned that they're going to go down. What is the advice that you would give, or what's the conversation sound like around their concerns about values going down?
Yeah. So real estate is an appreciating asset. So I wouldn't be worried about that anytime soon. I would say that they might balance out a little bit, but I wouldn't see it depreciating anytime soon, not drastically anyway. And that there are still buyers willing to pay market value. You're not having to reduce the way that, what the news media and everybody else wants you to believe. So,
Yeah, and obviously there's differences in every market. So depending
sure.
upon where people are at, there might be a little bit of a different experience. On the buyer side of things, what's the primary either motivations or concerns that you see from buyers?
I think it was more of, I saw a little bit of a slowdown like September, October, when rates were kind of like keep on climbing up to like 7 and 8, but they weren't used to seeing that because we were looking at interest rates in the 2s and the 4s. But again, it's just having that conversation and letting them, I kind of pull up a timeline for them. Look, this is what the real estate market does. And the average is 7.92. So at 5.65, you're doing phenomenal. Like, let's go find your house.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's just, again, it just goes back to education. I don't think that it's ever a wrong time to buy. Like, back in the 80s, maybe when the interest rate was like, 16, 17s, whatever, but we're okay. We're okay right now. And
the house cost $30,000 back then, though,
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
You can afford that payment a little easier. Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that I see for a lot of people is that they have a lack of information and education on a topic or what have you, and they're either scared out of making a decision just by a lack of good, solid, credible information.
Absolutely.
And what are you referring people to sources of information? Are you are you the one that's able to deliver that information to them? Is it a lending partner? Like, how do you help educate people?
So a lot of it is me researching the market and then being the person that's able to give that information. But I love partnering up and I love doing podcasts and things like this. And I'm so grateful that you gave me this opportunity. Home buyer seminars, things like that. I haven't done one in a while because I have been so extremely busy with my clientele that I have right now. But I'm seeing that as there's more questions raised with, what's going to happen over the next, 30, 60, 90 days, that it's a good opportunity to probably go out and do another first time home buyer seminar or VA loan home buyer seminar, things like that, and partnering up with, mortgage brokers like yourself and being able to deliver that information. So that was kind of a plug for us to be able to put something together. I'm just letting you know that.
Sounds good to me. No, I had the same thought. And actually I've been kind of working on the outline for home buyer seminar because I haven't done one in ages. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen. And that's why I'm doing this is I want to help educate people. I want people to learn about the things that they don't understand. Because, when they turn on the TV or they listen to their family or their friends who, are renting and telling them, they shouldn't buy or whatever. It's like,
Yes.
it's like you get the best parenting advice from someone with no kids, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I see happening, out in the public. I mean, you hear the talking heads out there that are in it for views and clicks and things like that. And it's a lot of fear and negativity that's out there. And it bugs me because it stops people from making decisions about their future and, how to further themselves along because they're afraid by what somebody else says. And it's irritating to me. So it's like the only thing we can do is to try to counter that with accurate information, not being
Absolutely.
overly rosy and, rainbows and unicorns all the time. Like we have to be realistic about things. I mean, if you had somebody come into you right now and saying, hey, I think I might want to buy a house. I'm not sure how long I'm going to stay. I might, get transferred, in a year. Like what would you talk to them about? Like what would that conversation sound like for you?
You're talking about just anybody coming to to me with
Anybody.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that would kind of look like, okay, well, what do you plan on doing with the home after you leave? What does that relocation look like? Is it a permanent relocation? And then kind of just going through the options of what they have, if they were to keep the house or, decide that, maybe it's not a good time to buy. Maybe if you are going to be relocating and you're going to be there for another 2 or 3 years, maybe hold off a little bit. So, and then finding just a good referral partner wherever they're going, wherever they're relocating. And that's another thing, is that there's enough business to go around to not try and just, be greedy with the client that you have in front of you. Because for me, yes, I'm in Texas, but there's no way that, I know the market in Austin or San Antonio where, we have Austin, what do you call it? Fort Hood is close to Killeen. And then you've got Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. I mean, there's other military installations. I'm just using those because I have a lot of military service members that, will get transferred over from there and vice versa. We're over here by Ellington. So, I don't know the market as well. Sure. I did do this. I kind of learned by trial and error here. But I took a listing on in San Antonio from a military service member in the Army, and I was not able to serve him well. And that was really upsetting. Now I got a second chance. He sent me his son who was going to buy here in Houston. So I got a chance to redeem myself there. But had I had already referred that out from the get-go, it would have been a much better experience. And so I think it's just being able to have a network of people to be able to refer them out to, whether it's a veteran loan buyer or a regular seller. Sorry. I forgot what we were talking about, buyer or seller. But the thing is just working with the people that you have in your network and not, not trying to just be greedy with the business that you have right in front of you.
Yeah, I think it's important what you talked about is, talking about what are those long-term plans and telling them what their options are, because a lot of times people don't know what their options are. They instinctively think, okay, if I'm going to move, I got to sell this house to go buy this next house.
Right. And
It's
that's
not
not
always
true.
the case. And
Right.
so, especially a lot of people that bought, in the last couple of years, they've got a bunch of equity in all likelihood that they've built up. They've probably got a really low interest rate on their loan. It might better serve them, even if they're having to pay a little higher rate today, maybe a little more expensive house today when they're moving, to keep that current house with rents going up, have some positive cash flow on that property.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that next house that they buy, they can still probably get a very low down payment loan, and depending upon whether they're, a veteran or active duty or just a regular consumer, there's low down payments available. There's even the potential for some down payment assistance programs. Not all of them, a lot of them, you have to be a first time home buyer. You can't have another property, but there's just opportunities that you have to go through and talk about. But if somebody's dead set that I have to sell, in order to move, I can't afford it, I don't want the risk, I don't want to have a tenant, all that kind of stuff. If that's their feeling, then the advice might just have to be, don't buy right now, because you may not make enough in appreciation to cover your cost of selling in a year from now. So maybe renting makes the most sense.
Right.
And then, pass them along to somebody that's good in their market that they're moving to, like you said, because everybody's situation is different. Our job is just to educate them on what their options are.
Right. And knowing what their buyer box is, or knowing what, for a seller, what is your end goal? Because it's not always about the highest offer, right? Sometimes it's time. Sometimes they need more time, to stay in the house in order to find another, or their relocation is, not going to be readily available, in their 30 or 45 days during the closing process. So it's just, it all boils down to asking the right questions and taking a consultative approach versus like an order taking approach, and being the expert in providing, knowledge. And then there's also times too where I don't know everything. I'm not, I don't know everything. And so it's just having that honest conversation with, what, I don't know that, but I think I know somebody who does. Let me get back to you on that. And not pretending that you do know everything.
There's no shame in saying that, because honestly, things change so much in this industry that, you could have known it and it
Mhm.
could have changed on you. I mean, I have that happen all the time. Plus I'm getting old, so I forget things, but like you have to verify things. And I think when you have enough experience to know, what are the red flags, what are the pitfalls that I need to look out for, may not have the answer today, but I know the things that might cause an issue. And so you go and investigate those, you go verify things, and then
Yeah.
you come back with the right answer. Because the last thing that we want to do is give the wrong answer just because we were too lazy to go check it out.
Yep. I agree with you. Yep.
So
100%.
one other thing that I see with our veterans that they don't realize is that you can have a VA loan and still go get another VA loan, can't you?
Yep. Yes. And so one of the biggest things is, partnering with a lender who is able to navigate both of those and knowing what their eligibility is through their certificate of eligibility, and being able to, give them the best financial picture because, they may think that they want two properties. But again, are they going to be relocating? What is the actual goal? And so I think being able to partner up with somebody who knows not only the market but knows how to construct a financial picture for them to be able to make the most and the best decision, the most knowledgeable and best decision, is probably going to be the best situation to kind of follow suit with.
Yeah, ultimately, you got to have people on your team that can help you get the right information to make a really well-informed decision.
Yeah.
That lack of knowledge, or like I've said before, the lack of the fear of something that's going to happen just because someone else is telling you, whispering in your ear, doesn't
Mhm.
help you make good decisions. In this market right now, just to kind of tie things up, what do you see as some of the opportunities in this market? Like, we've gone through a dramatic shift this entire year. Today, where we stand, middle of December, what do you see as maybe the biggest opportunities in the market?
I would say for sellers, right now is the time to sell. You're still getting a great value on your property. I have yet to see anything come in, too low, or where, my sellers are having to accept an offer that, is $30,000 or $40,000 under what they're asking for, especially if we have, use the comparables correctly. And I think for buyers, it's a great opportunity and kind of a breath of fresh air for them to be able to put in offers where they're either, right at asking or just right below, but also giving them the opportunity to be able to ask for some seller contribution. So I think it's a win-win situation right here, or right now, right here too. And also, I am seeing a lot of changes on, um, the mortgage loan side as far as programs and different criteria. I know, we went live yesterday. You mentioned about the utility and the rent payments being able to be looked at as well. And so that's huge. That's huge, is giving, the buyers more buying power. And they haven't had that in a while. So it's, like I said, it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I think I would agree that I think the opportunities for buyers right now are tremendous, because the fact of the matter is, if you were buying a first home and you didn't have an extra, 50 grand laying around that you could throw at a property above appraisal and
Hmm.
be willing to take all the risks of waiving all your contingencies and everything, you could have been qualified for the loan and not gotten a property,
Yeah.
because there was so much competition out there. And now we're kind of back to a more balanced market where you have a chance to get a property. And for anybody that's worried about where interest rates are at, what the rise in interest rates has done is giving you back the chance to get into a house.
Yeah.
And interest rates are going to come down. We don't know exactly when, we don't know exactly how far. We have our suspicions. And, as long as you go ahead and, make a good decision on the type of financing that you're doing. If you've got a VA loan or an FHA loan and rates drop, and let's say home values drop, because that's another fear that some people have,
Hmm.
you're going to be able to do a streamline or an interest rate reduction refinance if the rates go down, no matter what your home value is. And on those, as long as you made the mortgage payments, you're going to be able to do that. I mean, you could have lost your job and, not paid other bills and still be able to take advantage of that lower rate. So that's something that if you understand what those options are down the road and you have the right people advising you, you shouldn't necessarily feel afraid to make a move, because now is the opportunity to go buy, whereas you kind of got locked out of it the last couple of years. And even I just read this morning, this is one of the things that I thought might be happening is, with the concerns about in different markets, if home values go down and then if interest rates go down, are there going to be people who won't be able to refinance? They're actually having discussions within the FHFA, and Fannie and Freddie agree and are open to the idea of allowing for streamlined refinances on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans, which is basically what I'm describing with FHA and the VA loans, where they're just looking at, can we lower your rate? Have you been paying your mortgage on time?
Yeah.
Don't necessarily worry about the home value. Don't necessarily worry about all the rest of it. Make it really, really easy to get a lower interest rate. So there's some programs that are out there, like you mentioned, also some of the pricing add-ons that are typically there on a conventional loan that they're now wiped out as of this month. They're no longer charging all those pricing add-ons for people who are under area median income limits, so that more underserved communities can get into a more affordable housing option. So just all these opportunities that are out there. If you don't talk to a realtor and you don't talk to a lender to find out what's out there for you, you might still be left out in the cold when you really have the opportunity to get into a home and call someplace your own for the long term.
Yes. And I think you said one word, and I think that kind of, is probably the biggest way that we can define where we are at in the market right now, is that we are starting to see more balance, where before it was, more seller heavy in favor of the seller. I'm starting to see a shift, but I'm not seeing it, buyer heavy right now either. So balance is a good word.
Yep. And it's different everywhere. So just go talk to a good realtor, go talk to a good lender, figure out what your options are. If somebody's listening to you and thinking, hey, I want to talk to Veronica, how do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So of course you can reach me at thewierteam@gmail.com or veronica.wier, and that's WIER @gmail.com, or you can reach me on my cell phone. So 832-209-6873.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule. I know you're busy and running around. You got the family stuff, you got your real estate stuff, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys. Thank you. If you guys are, again, watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I appreciate you guys joining us, and then check in again next week where we'll have the next episode for you of the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. You take care.
Thanks for joining us, and please remember to go and subscribe, like, share, all that cool stuff to help us grow, and come back to listen to our next episode. Until then, go out and live life uncensored.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. Don't forget to help us out and subscribe. Follow and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. And check us out on YouTube for the full video podcast. If you want more information on any of the topics discussed on today's episode, email us at uncensoredrealestatepodcast@gmail.com or give the Cardenas Mortgage Team a call at 480-331-4684.